Okay, so remember there are four types of tissues: epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. So we went through epithelial tissue, we went through four specific types and their functions. Now we're going to go through connective tissues, their functions and specific examples. Okay, so connective tissues have cells, but on the outside they have extracellular matrix, which is going to determine their function uh, and their anatomy. So these cells are always between others. Remember, epithelial cells line spaces, so everything else is within other tissues. Okay. Connective tissue is highly vascularized and has a nerve supply. That should be connective. Lots of blood flow, nerves running through it, except tendons and cartilage. Functions of connective tissue: binding and support. They anchor down epithelial tissues. Protection, insulation, storing fuel reserves. Like fat tissue can do all of those things. It can provide cushioning, help us thermoregulate, and then have energy fuels that we can use. Then it can also transport substances. The blood is a connective tissue. It helps us move hormones, proteins, nutrients throughout our blood to different parts of the body. Okay. In the connective tissues, you're going to see different types of cells in different types of tissues. Any cells ending in the part blast, fibroblast, chondroblast, osteoblasts. Blast cells build matrix. So they're going to be actively secreting proteins and solutes. Whereas site cells are mature cells, they just maintain the matrix. You'll see chond in cartilage, osteo in bone. The other type of cells you'll see are clasts, CLASTS. Those are cells that break down matrix. So in your bone, on the outside of bone, you've got osteoblasts and osteoclasts, building up matrix, breaking matrix down. And then any osteoblast that gets caught inside the bone is called osteocytes at that point, and then they just maintain the matrix. Other cells that you'll see: fat cells, adipocytes, ADIPOCYTES, adipocytes. Those are fat cells. White blood cells, mast cells, and macrophages. Those are all part of immune response. They're all white blood cells and their derivatives. Okay, so we're going to look at the cells that you find here, and then we're going to look at the parts of the extracellular matrix. Okay, so extracellular matrix is everything outside of the cells. It has two parts: the fibers, we'll look at those, and then ground substance. So fibers are these large protein structures, and ground substance is the fluid around them with any solutes. There are three types of fibers that you'll see in connective tissue: collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. Collagen fibers are the biggest. Collagen is a really strong fiber, so it's known for its tensile strength. It's anywhere a tissue needs strength. So we'll look at different tissues, and if you see lots of collagen fibers, you'll know it's really strong. What they will look like in our slides is a thick, dark pink. Next, elastic fibers. Elastic fibers are thinner than collagen fibers, and they're very stretchy. They stretch and they recoil. They're elastic. So we'll look at tissues, and if you see elastic fibers in there, you know they can stretch. And last is reticular fibers. They're very similar in structure to collagen, but smaller, and we won't really be able to see those, but they'll just be structural. Good. So now we're going to look at specific types of connective tissue. You've got connective tissue proper, which is loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue, cartilages, bone, and blood. The first specific type of connective tissue we're going to look at is areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue forms the basement membrane, binding epithelial cells to other tissue. It's widely distributed through the body. There you've got water and salts, you've got white blood cells, you've got fat cells, you've got lots of fibers, and they're very loose in arrangement. There's lots of spaces between them. The ground substance here is water and salts, and when you have inflammation, lots of extra water goes in there, and that's where you get swelling or edema. This is what areolar connective tissue looks like under the slide. The dark spots are the nuclei of cells. The cells here that secrete matrix are fibroblasts. You'll also have some white blood cells in here, maybe some fat cells. I will not ask you to identify those though. These thicker pink fibers, collagen. That gives it strength. The thin, squiggly dark purple is elastic fibers. So you know areolar connective tissue is strong, but has some stretch. Next, adipose tissue, fat. So there you've got lots of fat cells and less matrix. Think about the areas where you have more fat. It's areas like surrounding important organs where it can cushion the blow, it insulates us, and we can use that fat to make ATP. So our cells will be a little more ragged than this, but in general, this is a single adipose cell. Single adipose cell. The nuclei of these cells is pushed way to the side of the cell. Taking up almost the whole space in here is called a fat storage vacuole. So before you dye these cells, this would be a really oily yellow fatty substance. But the dyes that we use to dye them rinses that out so it just looks like blank space. But that's where the fat would be. Next, dense regular connective tissue. So here the fibers are going to be right next to each other. So here's dense connective tissue regular. Lots of collagen fibers, densely packed together. So even if you didn't know what the function of this was or where it was, you should know that it's somewhere that needs a lot of strength. And where do we find them? Tendons and ligaments and aponeuroses. Those are connecting muscle to bone, muscle to muscle, bone to bone. These connections have to be really strong. Next, elastic connective tissue. So these are also densely packed fibers, but now instead of collagen, it's elastic. So these are going to be areas that have to stretch a lot. So all these dark purple fibers are elastic fibers. So this is your aorta cut open. Your aorta is right outside the heart. It's got blood pumping in there under really high pressure. It has to be able to stretch and recoil to deal with that, otherwise it could be damaged. So it has a lot of stretch. Next, we're going to look at cartilages. There are 3 different types of cartilage. And when you think about them, they're pretty tough, but they're more flexible than most of the other connective tissues. They are avascular. They don't have any blood flow. The 3 types that we'll look at: hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. First, hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is most of the places that you think of as cartilage are hyaline. So like your nose, your trachea, your windpipe, your larynx, your voice box. The background of this is very smooth. We can't really see any fibers. The other thing you have, these structures with cells on the inside. This structure is the lacuna, the little lagoon. The cell inside is a chondrocyte. So on a lab test, I could point to this and I could ask you, what is the structure shown at the pointer? And what is the cell? And you would have 2 different answers. Next, we've got elastic fibers. It looks a lot like hyaline cartilage, except you can see all these dark purple lines of elastic fibers. So that's your ear and your epiglottis, the little flap that comes down when you swallow to make sure food doesn't go down your trachea. Again, you've got the chondrocyte and lacuna, but now you've got elastic fibers. The last is fibrocartilage, and this looks a lot like what our slide does. Here, collagen is blue rather than pink. So you've got a lot of collagen in fibrocartilage, so you know it's going to be your strongest. There, between your vertebrae, your intervertebral discs, they allow a little bit of movement, but not much. And the other place you'll find is your pubic symphysis. So in the front of your pubic area, where your two pubic bones come together, is the pubic symphysis. That'll be important for women during childbirth. Next, you've got bone, or osseous tissue. The matrix of bone is really special. It's this hard calcium phosphate salt region. It's very, very strong. There's actually more collagen than in cartilage. They just found that there's within bone like this gel-like portion with collagen that helps make bone slightly more flexible. They didn't know that before, which is really neat. You've also got a couple different types of bone marrow that look a little bit different. Yellow bone marrow has fat, and red bone marrow does hematopoiesis. It makes your blood cells, your red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Bone kind of looks like tree trunks. Each tree trunk is called an osteon. The osteon is the functional unit of bone. So we'll look at functional units of different parts of anatomy. And what we mean by that is it's a section that has all the different parts. So it's the smallest section that has all the different parts. So your osteon has all the parts of compact bone. In the middle, you've got what's called the central canal. That has blood vessels in it. Then on the outside, those dark spots are lacuna, and since we're in bone, the cell that they have are osteocytes. Osteocytes maintain matrix. And then the matrix material here with those calcium phosphates is called the lamella. That's the hardened background substance. Last connective tissue, blood. Blood is the only fluid tissue. There, your extracellular matrix is your plasma. The cells that you find there, red blood cells to carry oxygen, white blood cells for immune response, and platelets for clotting. The fibers in your blood are actually dissolved most of the time. The only time they become undissolved or precipitate, solidifying, is during blood clotting. Blood helps us transport nutrients, hormones, wastes around the body. So this is what blood looks like. The clear part is the plasma, the fluid and solutes. All these pink cells that are really thin in the middle, that almost look clear, are red blood cells to carry oxygen. White blood cells are the larger cells that are darker. There are different types of white blood cells, but I won't make you identify those yet. And then platelets look like little pieces of red blood cells. Okay, now to put together two things that we've talked about, epithelium and connective tissues. Those make up our lining membranes, like cutaneous membranes, so like our skin, our stratified squamous epithelium, and then the basement membrane underneath, our mucous membranes, uh, lining everything that's kind of external to our body, our digestive tract, our respiratory tract, urogenital tract, and then serous membrane, that double layered membrane, like you have the pericardium around the heart, the pleura around the lungs, and then the abdominal pelvic region has the mesentery and peritoneum. Okay, so the last slide for connective tissue is an overview animation that you can run. Think about the types of connective tissue we went through, go over them again. Look at all the different features of each, where they're located.